Color Cooler is a website that supposedly extracts a color palette from your Instagram profile. You've been seeing it all over Instagram, so you go to the site. You input your Instagram handle. As it loads, you get excited thinking about all the cool pictures you could possibly paint with your fun personal colors. The palette pops up. You get hit with the shattering reality that you stink at taking photographs because all of your colors are either brown or gray. You get sad, you get annoyed, but you download your palette anyway. It downloads weirdly cropped off for some reason. Sigh. Big sigh. You start needlessly poking fun at this website. I mean, keep consistent your Instagram feed? Haha, what grammar school did you go to? You momentarily question whether grammar schools are actually a thing that exists, but you resist the urge to Google it. You begin to feel bad because you realize your needless poking of fun is simply the result of your own shame towards your inability to post highly saturated photographs. You feel crushed. You want to trash all of your ideas to paint with the colors. But then you remember, wait, you're an artist. You're a YouTuber. Kind of. And you're not going to let your mud smorgasbord palette of an Instagram profile stop you from making a superfluous, ridiculous, and 100% not sponsored video introduction. Hello, I'm Zaccura and welcome back to my channel. By the way, that introduction took me like 6 takes because for some reason I decided that I didn't want to cheat and like speed it up with the program, so instead I literally just talked that fast. Why did I do this? I have no idea, but moving on. So even though my last video came out on January 2nd, I kind of consider this as my first video of 2020 because the other video was really just late to getting uploaded. It was supposed to be the last video of 2019. At the very least, this is the first video I recorded in 2020, so Happy New Year! I was getting some first video jitters this last week. Even though I have many plans for videos to make this year, I was feeling pretty indecisive on what to make for the first video. I guess it's kind of like that, you know, first page in the sketchbook intimidation. But I've been seeing this Instagram color palette thing on Instagram, obviously, a lot recently, and just a lot of artists have been making art pieces using their Instagram palettes, and I was also inspired by the video Casey Golden did with this challenge, and it just seemed like a really fun challenge all around, and it's been a long time since I did an art challenge, so here we are. Like most people, my palette was full of very, very dull colors, but I was actually kind of surprised that there were a couple of semi-stronger colors that you could confidently say were neither gray or brown. I thought perhaps my whole palette would just be dark gray, but anyway. My overall color was silver, which I'm now just realizing I could have implemented into my painting as a 10th color, but I didn't think of that at the time, so oh well. And to break down the 9 color squares, it was pretty much 4 different shades of gray, both cool and warm, 2 shades of blue, 2 shades of yellow/orange, and 1 dark greenish swamp. I am very not used to working with limited color palettes, at least especially not with digital art. I guess with traditional art I kind of am because y'all know Zaccy don't mix her own watercolors. I'm working on it, guys. I am. It's one of my resolutions to get better at watercolors, and that's gonna start with learning how to mix them properly. But anyway, with digital art, I tend to not recycle colors pretty much at all, unless I'm doing something more cartoony, something more 2D. But when I paint, I pretty much just keep eyeballing and grabbing colors off of the color wheel. And also, I am very, very not used to making an illustration around a color palette rather than the other way around. I pretty much exclusively sketch the illustration first and then pick the colors afterwards. So this was definitely a challenge for me in many regards. At first, going into this challenge, I thought I would do some sort of line work based illustration and use the colors as they are to just fill things in, maybe do some kind of cell shading stuff. But after seeing my palette, I was just like, ha, that's not going to happen. I mean, I could have done it, but I just couldn't think of anything unique. Like, I feel like anything I would have drawn would have just been any normal portrait illustration mumbo jumbo that just happened to be washed out and colored in with these muddy colors. So instead, I decided to go the painterly route and mix the colors together on the canvas. Is this cheating? I don't know. But in traditional art, your quote-unquote palette is really just the base array of colors you put on your palette dish, and then you mix away as much as you want to. So that was more of the approach I decided on here. I only used these 9 colors. I did not use any other colors, but I definitely mixed them a lot on the canvas. So to start with, I picked what I felt was the most neutral mid-tone color out of the 9, which was this light grayish blue in the bottom right corner, and I filled in my canvas with that. That way I wouldn't be working on a purely white background, because when it comes to painting, you should always pretty much try to avoid working on a completely white or completely black canvas, because it'll just mess up your ability to see values properly, aka lights and darks. If you work on a white canvas, everything's going to look darker than it really is, and if you work on a dark canvas, everything's going to look lighter than it really is. And especially with this palette having so many colors that were so close to each other in value, I needed to really get a grasp on the differences of these colors. It is really interesting to see, though, how after working and inspecting the same 9 colors so intensely, you're really able to see the differences and qualities of each, and they actually start to look very different from each other. I went through a few different ideas on what to paint. Naturally, my first thought would maybe to just do some kind of landscape stuff, but it just felt kind of boring. And finally, it kind of hit me that I happen to have like this reddish orange skin tone color, a yellowish skin tone color, and a greenish brownish skin tone color. And those are the 3 shades of skin tone that you need to paint a nice looking white dude. That didn't come out correctly. Okay, so that wasn't quite how my epiphany went in my head. The 3 colors did remind me about the little fact about like facial skin, which is especially apparent on paler skin colors. And that is, there are like 3 zones in your face. The middle portion of the face is more red because that's where most of the muscles and blood and meat and stuff is. The forehead area is more yellow because under that skin is just pretty much your skull, so skin and bone really. And the lower portion of your face where your jaw and chin is more greenish because I don't completely remember why for this part. I mean, something to do with, was it the veins? It's something to do with the veins maybe, or maybe it has to do with like beard hair. But then, no, but then that wouldn't apply to women. I don't know. I don't freaking remember. Y'all can remind me in the comments. I still need to study this stuff more. You know, I could have totally just Googled that right now and just, you know, edited all of this in my narration to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but it's not my style. Y'all are getting the true, genuine Zaccura only on this channel. Anyway, so after seeing that I had the potential to do a nice, somewhat realistic portrait piece, I thought about making this painting of like a person floating on their back in the water. That way I'd be able to use the blue for the background. So that was my jumping off point for this painting, and you'll see I completely abandoned the idea of the person floating on their back in the water as I continued painting, and it really just kind of became something completely different. But at least this was the point in my, you know, painting process when I had decided that I would no longer be starting from scratch, and I started to render things out more. As you probably gathered, I had no clear idea or composition I wanted to go with for this painting, and even as I continued to paint, the composition just kind of came as it came. At first he had closed eyes, and then he had somewhat open eyes. Then I was too lazy to paint in his second eye, and then I put some dark color on his face and it looked like holes, and I was like, hey, maybe this is some sort of sci-fi robot dude, and there's some kind of crumbling crack on the right side of his face that would make the lack of eyeball in his right socket make sense. It was really just a stretch of constant creativity and seeing what comes out of it. Kind of like what I talked about in my Make Selfish Art video, except in this case, I was doing a lot less yes and was doing a lot more yes and wait, no, actually. I especially had an issue with what to do with his shoulders and chest. I redrew it like 10 times. At first he was just plain shirtless, and I was like, no, not very interesting. Then I drew this weird like open chest thing with wires running throughout his body and was like, no, that's triggering my trypophobia. And in the end I went with this sort of just gaping void. It almost looks like he's made out of porcelain and he's been dropped on the floor and now half of his body is missing. It's weird, but I really like it. I guess that's kind of the elevator pitch for this whole painting, really. It's weird, but I really like it. I think the color palette helped a lot with making everything feel lighter and prettier, despite this sort of creepy Matrix theme. Because most of the colors, while muddy, were very light and almost pastel-like. As a matter of fact, it was actually almost too light. It was very difficult to do any shadows, but thankfully, I had that one dark green swamp color. That one color, the swamp, okay, was really the savior of this painting. I have never been more thankful for a muddy, swampy green color before. I also ended up really liking that off-white color that I used for the wires in his head. I also used it for the rim highlights, and it just looked really, really clean and pretty. I don't know. As I was painting, I really started to feel like this painting was giving me like Porter Robinson vibes. I don't know if you guys know who Porter Robinson is, but he's like an EDM artist. He does like really neat electronic music and just totally reminded me of his album Worlds, because it's almost dystopian, but at the same time it's really light and pretty at the same time, so I don't know. Another thing that was really hard was the background. Because I had already used every color in my palette for the subject of the painting, it was really difficult to use the exact same colors for the background while still having that separation of the background and the dude. It just kept on feeling like one flat plane. But once again, the swamp saved my butt there. It's hardly noticeable, but I added just a tint of darkness all around the dude. And then blurred everything so it would be more out of focus, and that really helped pop the dude closer to the camera and push the background farther away. And I mean, that is that. I think I've blabbed on long enough, but I kind of really love how this painting came out. I'm sorry. It was really nice to do something different, and I honestly really loved painting with a limited color palette. It's always odd, like whenever I do something that's totally opposite than what I'm used to, I end up really loving it. But yeah, I've definitely got to try this sort of thing again, you know, just put together random color palettes and then try to paint something with them. There's also lots of other YouTube art challenges that have some form of limited palettes that I could give a go, so yeah, gotta try it again, because it was really fun and I really liked the result, so. And that concludes the video! Yay! Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a comment letting me know what you think, and let me know what your Instagram palette is. Did you check it out? If you didn't, go check it out and let me know what your color is. And before you go, please do hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I make new videos every week. I'm still trying to find a groove on what day of the week I will be uploading, so videos may come a bit irregularly, sometimes on Thursdays, sometimes on Fridays, sometimes on Sundays, etc. but it is one of my New Year's resolutions to do weekly uploads, so the videos will still be coming on a weekly basis. It just sometimes won't be exactly 7 days, it may be like 6 days or 8 days or 10 days or something like that, but it'll be close enough. So be sure to hit the little bell next to the subscribe button so that you get notified whenever new videos arrive. If you'd like to check out my shop, subscribe to my newsletter, or get my book, Year, a collection of short stories, which is an illustrated book about everyday people overcoming everyday challenges in the face of not so everyday happenings, everything can be found over on my website, Zaccura.com. Link will be in the description box, of course. Speaking of which, when it comes to my shop, the multifunctional 2020 monthly character calendar will continue to be available on my shop until January 20th, at which point it will become unavailable. So if you're still looking for a nice calendar for this year and would like to support a small creator at the same time, then you can still grab a handmade copy from my shop. Yay! Thank you for your support. I hope you guys are having a great start to your year, and if not, I'm sending you all the cookies right now. Thanks again for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, stay awesome, stay inspired, always. See ya!